And Chief, we're live, so you're ready to go.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Bob Jonsen, the Chief of Police for the Palo Alto Police Department. One of the things that we wanted to do this afternoon or midday here today is to provide you an overview of the Palo Alto Police Department. This community session is the first of a series of 1-hour online community briefings that hopefully will offer you insight to the Palo Alto Police Department, along with some other aspects associated with law enforcement. The community briefings are loosely based on our curriculum provided in the police department's popular Basic Citizen Police Academy, and will provide you a deeper dive into law enforcement topics as a foundation of the upcoming broader community briefing sessions. Those later sessions will cover topics such as use of force policy and our use of force investigations, laws of arrest and search and seizure, and accountability within the Palo Alto Police Department. This community session will provide you a broad overview of our department, and we will discuss some of the crime statistics associated with 2019 response times, other notable accomplishments, accountability measures that are in place, and our work with our independent police auditor. We'll also address legislative changes impacting our operations, and finally, we'll talk about looking forward to see what the future holds. The mission statement of the Palo Alto Police Department is to proudly serve and protect the public with respect and integrity. My expectations as the chief of this department is for us to be excellent in everything we do, proactively enforce the law, and serve the Palo Alto community with respect. First, before we get into the details, I want to give you some insight into the special men and women who work for this department and serve this community every day. I want to show you a police recruiting video that we put together in 2018, shortly after I arrived with the Palo Alto Police Department. It showcases the diverse backgrounds and the type of individuals that we seek to hire. I know some of you may have seen this in a study session we did back in February, but for those that haven't, I think it's beneficial.
I used to be a heavy machinery fabricator, and I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a professional baseball player. Now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a high school teacher. Now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a high school student, and now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a mechanic. Now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a collegiate football player. And now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be an attorney. Now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a collegiate softball player. And now I'm a Palo Alto police officer. I used to be a nurse and medical technician. I'm a Palo Alto police officer. Hi, I'm Chief Robert Jonsen. And as you can see, each Palo Alto police officer has their own unique story. But despite these different backgrounds, they all embrace a common vision: to proudly serve and protect the citizens of Palo Alto with respect and integrity. If you'd like to help us accomplish this mission, apply today and tell us your story.
We'll talk more about our hiring efforts later in this session. You know, when I started as the chief for this city, I wanted our personnel to be able to showcase their work to the community. So we created our first annual report in 2018. And earlier this year, when we showed that video, we also released our 2019 version. This is accessible on our website online. It's a 72-page report that details all the aspects of our department. And I'd really encourage you to go to this link and to take some time to review our annual report. Our department, as you know, we just went through budget discussions, but for the most part, it was 150 employees across 4 divisions, and that's recently been reduced to 125 through the budget reduction process. All in all, we have a makeup of 69% male and 31% female. What's unique with our department is we employ 32 individuals who speak a variety of languages, and that's very beneficial for such a diverse community such as ours. You can read about the report and a lot of other statistics in the annual report, and again, I would encourage you to do so. But to give you an idea of the activity of the Palo Alto Police Department, and I'll use numbers that are whole from 2019. This is a very active department for a city of our size. Our dispatch center alone is the third busiest in the Santa Clara County, answering approximately 175,000 calls per year. And as you can see, those are broken up between calls for service and other offenses. But 99%, over 99% of our calls for service are answered with 911s are answered within 15 seconds. And that's a testament to the work that they do every day in answering the vast majority of calls that we receive. And the reason it's diverse and busy for our communication center is they're not only answering calls for the police department, but they also answer calls for the fire department, Palo Alto Utilities, the Public Works, and Stanford's Department of Public Safety, as well as our Palo Alto Animal Control. So as you see, it's a wide range of services that we provide. Detailed info on our crime statistics, I'll highlight a few as we go through this session, but they can all be found in the annual report as well, specifically on pages 8 through 10. Again, it was 72 pages. You have a few pages to go through. Well, we saw an increase in auto burglaries in 2019. We saw a drop in the number of home burglaries and assaults. The increase in the auto burglaries occurred throughout the region, and some of you may be aware of that trend. For our officers and detectives, they made a lot of great arrests over the years, and it's really helped us address some of these issues. What's critically important to remember, though, that Palo Alto is an extremely safe city. Even though recently we've been addressing a lot of issues, and even more recently, the issue around fireworks, this is a very safe city, and the violent crime in our streets is extremely rare. Over the last 10 years, we've averaged less than 1 homicide a year. That is remarkable for a city this size. Our response times are also pretty impressive. Geographically, our officers provide service to 4 patrol beats throughout the city, divided throughout between Alma Street from north to south, and Oregon Expressway and Page Mill from east to west. They do their absolute best to respond to calls within the city standard, and that's 6 minutes for emergencies, 10 minutes for urgent calls, and 45 minutes for non-emergency. And depending on the area that you live in, you can see where you fall. But for the most part, they do an extraordinary job in responding to our calls for service. The location of our current police department or police station, as you know, is on Ramona and Forest in the center of Palo Alto. But we'll be moving, hopefully sometime in the next few years, over to 250 Sherman Avenue on California Avenue. And that'll allow us to be more centrally located throughout the city. We have accomplished quite a lot in a short period of time since I arrived in 2018, and I'd really like to kind of highlight a few of those things as we move forward. Most notable accomplishments will be covered over the next couple of slides. One of the things that I think is very important for the community to understand is our video capturing system. Some of you may be aware that we have a system in place, but simply put, we have the most robust recording system for our personnel of any agency in Santa Clara County. Stanford Department of Public Safety does have the same setup. And what do I mean by this? Well, we've always had cameras, or we've had cameras and microphones in all our patrol cars since 2007. In 2018, we added body-worn cameras. All of these recordings, and that's 6 channels of video and 2 channels of audio, serve as an independent record of what our officers say and do on every interaction. They can generate evidence for court, they can assist us with officer accountability, and protect our personnel and the public by maintaining an independent record of what occurs on every interaction. PAPD has about 103 terabytes, and I'm not a techie, but that's a lot of video. And that's about equivalent to over 30,000 hours of video that we've captured just over the last couple of years. I'd actually like to give you a little greater insight to that by showing you a video that we shared at the study session that was put together by our Public Information Officer, Janine Della Vega.
Hi, I'm Janine Della Vega. I'm the Public Affairs Manager with the Palo Alto Police Department. Something that you may not know is that each of our patrol cars is equipped with 5 cameras. There's one on the windshield, there's one on the passenger side, there's one here on the driver's side, there's another one in the back seat where the suspect sits. There's also another one in the rear of the patrol car. This system has been in place since 2014, so our officers are used to being reported. What's new is the department just purchased 50 of these body-worn cameras. They're going to clip onto each of the officers' uniforms, and this is going to sync up with the system that we have in our car. Now, that's going to be 6 cameras recording the most out of any municipality in Santa Clara County. This is going to be the over investigation. It's going to generate evidence to report. It also is going to show officers' conduct, especially when they're stepping up further away from the car. We want to be accountable. It's also going to help personnel preventing lawsuits. We're really excited about these new additions. Our officers are being trained, and we're going to share more once we're closer to rolling these out.
Okay, I apologize. I'm getting information that the audio is not so great, especially over the Zoom. I apologize for that. It seems to be pretty loud, but I'll try to get it up for future sessions. Again, we're learning this platform as we go sometimes, so bear with us. Thank you, though. One of the videos I wanted to show you, so as Janine just talked about, you know, we have the body camera and the cameras on our vehicles. So the officers capture on every interaction these different views. Again, this is something that is unique because even if they're just sitting at a stop sign, they're capturing multiple angles. So it can be very, very beneficial for us. And it also goes back 30 seconds. So even before they activate or get out of the car, it's recording 30 seconds back so we can go back and capture something. One of the things that we've heard loud and clear since my arrival was the issue with traffic enforcement and traffic issues within the city of Palo Alto. It was a major concern of our residents. And one of the first things we did was reinstate the traffic unit and the traffic team. We did that in July of 2018 with 2 dedicated officers, one on a motorcycle and a full-time one in a vehicle. And then in 2019, we were able to expand that to add a sergeant. So now there are 3 individuals assigned to that unit. And we've decided to keep that unit in place for as long as we can, even through the budget reductions. In July of 2020, the team, as I mentioned, became a sergeant and 2 officers. And we're going to look to hopefully enhance that team, expand that team. At one point, there were 8 traffic officers with the Palo Alto Police Department. So we'll see if we can someday get back to that. The other thing that we started doing in 2019 was we dusted off a program that had been in hiatus for over a decade, and that was our Community Service Officer program. Currently, we have 2 non-sworn CSOs who respond to a wide variety of non-emergency calls that sworn personnel have previously handled. This allows our officers to focus on the more complex criminal cases and making arrests where necessary. Due to the success of this program, we are exploring increasing the number of patrol CSOs in future years. I talked about this program as well at the study session and hopefully how it can become a model for our hiring in the future. This is something that we're looking to utilize to really recruit individuals from within the community that have aspirations for being a police officer, but may want to continue their education. This gives them kind of that platform to dive in, see what it's about, and see if it's something they want to continue to do. It worked really well for me when I was at Menlo Park, and I'm hoping it continues to have success here in Palo Alto. The other thing I created in 2018 was our community advisory group. This has been really important and really valuable. This is something I've done in every one of my commands, whether it was Los Angeles, Menlo Park, and now in Palo Alto. And the reason I do this is to allow that direct access to residents of the community. And when we did this in 2018, we accepted every resident that applied, and that was the only criteria, that you were a resident of the city of Palo Alto or you were a business owner. So it's a wide makeup of representation throughout the city. We also made sure that every area throughout the city was represented so we could have a connection with the community. It allows us an open line of communication into all our neighborhoods. And again, this is something that's worked well. We meet bi-monthly, or we did meet bi-monthly in person. And now we've been actually transitioning those meetings to monthly online, and we use a team platform through Microsoft Teams to connect and meet. And this group has been instrumental in providing me and this department input and guidance on topics such as our traffic enforcement. For example, we asked the group to really talk with their neighbors about key traffic issues that were pertinent to their neighborhoods. So we could actually direct our traffic enforcement team to go out and strategically look for violators of whatever offense it may have been that was an issue for that particular neighborhood. And they've done that with great success. So that strategic traffic plan has been in place for over a year, and it's working very well. They also gave us guidance on grooming standards and also input on our body camera policy. So again, very, very valuable group. And for those of you that are attending this session, thank you for being part of this organization. The other thing we're very involved in is our community engagement. We continue to offer our popular 8-week basic citizen police academy. As I mentioned, that this model is actually taken from these sessions. We do that 3 times a year, and we did it 3 times a year in 2019. Obviously, with the restrictions we have in place, we haven't been able to continue that throughout 2020, but we hope to bring that back in person, hopefully sometime soon. We also relaunched an advanced citizen police academy classes that occur roughly every other month. And those were special classes for all the graduates from the academy that could come and attend really a deeper dive session on whatever it may be. So those have been really well attended as well. The goal of these programs are to foster increased understanding and communication between community members and the police. And it gives you as participants the ability to ride along with our officers, participate in sit-alongs with our public safety dispatchers. And really one of the most popular aspects of that class is to experience a force options video simulator. So it's a great part of the program that really gives you an opportunity to see things from a police officer or dispatcher's point of view. Some of the technology enhancements for our department has been coming fast and furious, and we've done numerous advancements, increasing our capability to serve this community. We have a very integrated system here. Obviously, it has to be in order to provide the services I spoke about earlier, not only in addition to fire, law enforcement, police department, but also to serve Stanford's Department of Public Safety, as well as the fire department. So we're constantly upgrading those systems, and we are currently doing so. It's one of those things that'll probably be continually advancing, probably at the same speed as our iPhones do. Every few years, they require pretty significant upgrades. We do this to keep our services up to date and accessible to everything that we do. One of the things that we're really working hard on is our online reporting. This project's been delayed, but we're really working on getting it available, especially due to the global pandemic. Making reporting accessible online will be extremely beneficial for the community. So we're working diligently to make sure that happens in the near future. We also are working on some other aspects of our technology that we hope to be able to talk about soon. So we'll continue to keep you updated in that. Now we're going to move into the session that I think a lot of you are probably very much interested in. It revolves around accountability and our use of force policy. Much of the information presented in the next few slides are actually details protected under the government code, but I'll do my best to explain in general terms exactly what our personnel are doing and how they're doing it. Overall, I will say this: I couldn't be prouder of our personnel and how they conduct themselves while they're at work. When it comes to force for the city of Palo Alto, and use of force for law enforcement has been a broad topic, a very focused topic for this country, and for good reason. But in the city of Palo Alto, our use of force is relatively rare. As you can see, over the period of 5 years from 2015 to 2019, It was a very, very low number of incidents that occurred. And we'll talk about that in greater detail as we go on. One of the things that I want to address is the 8 Can't Wait campaign. This is really what a lot of the conversation's been around, especially locally, police reform and that particular initiative. And when you look at that particular initiative, there's 8 core areas that they look at and they're asking for change. De-escalation, chokeholds, removal of chokeholds, duty to intervene, shooting at moving vehicles, force options, and exhausting all other alternatives, warning before shootings, and comprehensive reporting. So one of the things I would like to share with you, that this is one of many platforms that's being discussed right now. In the state of California, Cal Chiefs, which is a program that oversees all the California chiefs within the state of California, is really working hard to make sure we're complying with some of the new laws that have been put in place, and also really looking internally at our own policies and procedures on ways we can enhance them to serve our communities better. One of the things that we did very soon after the 8 Can't Wait initiative was put into place is that we immediately started looking at our policies. And I commend the men and women of this department for coming forward with removing the carotid restraint. We don't have chokeholds. That's something that's always been banned. But we did have the carotid restraint application in our policy, and that has now been removed. So our officers are no longer allowed or authorized to use that. That was something we did on June 9th. So it happened very soon after the initiative was put into place. And then they go a little bit further in a couple of those other key areas. The de-escalation, we looked at that policy and enhanced it on June 17th to make it greater in compliance, as well as our duty to intervene, as well as reporting when we do so. So there's a lot of things that are happening in our policy. We'll be talking a lot about that with the Human Relations Commission, who's been tasked with looking at the 8 Can't Wait initiative and how it plays out with the police department here in Palo Alto. So we'll be reporting on that, especially at the upcoming meeting, I believe on July 9th. So let's look at our use of force. The takeaway for the Palo Alto Police Department is that it's relatively rare, but yes, we've had some notable incidents. And so some of those I can't talk about because they're currently under investigation. But for the most part, I want you to know this. It is extremely rare. And for the most part, as you can see, based on this graph, a vast majority, in fact, about 3/4 of the time, the only force we're using is physical strength, meaning there are no impact weapons, no other tools being used. It's the physical strength, whether it's a control hold, takedown, whatever it may be. We could talk more about that as well. But even in our tools that are accessible to us, you can see that the TASER has been used a few times as well, but over a 5-year period is still relatively low in numbers. The best tool that our officers possess is really nothing that they wear on their duty belt. It's their ability to communicate. And a vast majority of the time, our officers are able to peacefully take people or someone into custody without using any use of force. Our policy is very clear. The use of force by law enforcement personnel is a matter of critical concern, both to the public and the law enforcement community. Officers are involved on a daily basis in a numerous variety of interactions, and when warranted, may have to use reasonable force to carry out their duties. There's a tremendous amount of training that officers undertake in this area because they must have an understanding of the true and appreciation for their authority and limitation. I do not take that lightly, and I've said that before. Police officers should be held accountable because they're granted with a tremendous amount of authority over the public. So we take that very serious and ensure that our officers are well trained in these areas. This is especially true with respect to overcoming resistance while engaged in the performance of their duties. We're always looking to make sure they had strong legal standing, or just legal standing in that fact. They used alternative, they used their communication skills, and that escalation was reasonable and whatever that may be. For every reported use of force, an on-duty supervisor will investigate the use of force, and they'll complete a supervisor report form. This is a very detailed report that gets submitted and processed through the chain of command. All the relevant documents are attached. The supervisors will write out a narrative documenting the incident, what occurred, and they'll also make sure that they capture everything about that incident that they can at that point in time, meaning the suspect's information, statements, making sure they obtained medical treatment if necessary. They'll describe those in details, those injuries to the suspect, the officers, or anyone else involved. They'll describe property damage if it was a part of the equation. They'll identify all the officers involved, and they'll do everything they can to identify witnesses that may have witnessed what occurred. The investigation is a tedious one. It's comprehensive, and like I said, it goes up through multiple layers through the management team, and it ultimately is signed off and submitted and held on to for in the file. Many of these are sent down, as well as our complaints, to the independent auditors, which many of you are probably aware. But what many people don't realize is that's important to note. The Palo Alto Police Department is only one of very few agencies, especially of our size, that have an independent oversight. You can go to our website and you can read every independent auditor's report that's been published since 2006. And it's my understanding that the final report of 2018 and 2019, well, 2018 is out, but we were back on track to making sure those come out in a timely fashion. The IPA's role is to review public generated complaints, review our complaint investigations, review our use of force as in regards to our TASER applications, and the administrative investigations conducted by the police department. They make recommendations on those recommendations, and they deliver their findings to the police administration and ultimately to city council. The expectation of our personnel working in the public safety are and should be extremely high, as I mentioned. I believe strongly that we should not take our authority or the roles as guardians of society lightly, and we are human, just like we showed in that initial video, and thus we're imperfect. If poor judgment is used during an interaction and our personnel know they should, I'm sorry, let me back up. If poor judgment is used during an interaction, our personnel know with clear direction that they'll be held accountable. And I can't emphasize that enough. Accountability is really important. We reference accountability in the auditor. We take those things seriously when they give us feedback. And again, if somebody does something they know they shouldn't be doing, then they also know they're going to be held accountable. So let's talk about some of the changes that are affecting and impacting the Palo Alto Police Department operations, and not in a bad way. These are all things that I agree should be in place and are really doing a lot to help us. But we also have been working on trying to adhere to some of these changes that were just recently put in place. SB 1421, which went into effect in January of 2019, allows the public and the press to access previously confidential police personnel records. That includes officer discharging a firearm at a person, officers using force that resulted in great bodily injury, a sustained finding that an officer was engaged in a sexual assault, or a sustained finding that an officer committed an act of dishonesty. When those are present, then we can, through a public records request, we would be required to release those documents. And we're doing our best to make sure we do that in a timely fashion. AB 748, which was also effective in July of 2019, created new disclosure provisions that broadly allow audio and video recordings of critical incidents to be publicly released as well. These include officers discharging a firearm, officers using any type of force that results in great bodily injury or death. And those, again, are something that we've gone back, looked at all our incidents to see what meets this criteria, and are working on getting those available and accessible online. Then there's SB 978, which was effective January of 2020, this year, which requires all police officers or police departments to publish their policies, practices, and operational protocols and training material for the public viewing. While our policy manual has been published online for years already, we now have established our own public information portal, which is available on our website. And we're constantly adding material to it. So again, I would advise you to check out our website if you haven't already. So looking forward, 2020, we've got a lot of challenges ahead. We've got a lot of work in front of us. We know that, and we're willing to engage the community and everybody else to make this department a better place. We're going to continue to work on actively recruiting personnel to this department. One of the policies that I did not tell you that we recently updated, which is not necessarily part of 8 Can't Wait, but we felt is necessary, is we amended our policy to ensure that we automatically disqualify applicants with any history of discipline for excessive force. Our policy has always automatically disqualified candidates with a history of dishonesty or discriminatory behavior. And now our standing policy practice will continue to make sure that we do not hire any lateral with any significant use of force or issues around that, and especially disciplinary history. So that is in place. We put that in place last week, and we'll move forward with that. But hiring and recruiting personnel to this profession was already challenging, and we expect it may continue to be that way. To give you an example, when I was hired for the Palo Alto Police Department, we had 13 police officer vacancies. And that was a number that remained relatively consistent for my first 2 years. And then over the last, 8 months now, we have really turned the switch on and been able to hire some outstanding individuals. And as I sit here in front of you today, we had gotten that vacancy down to 5, which was incredible. As you know, we just went through budget reductions. So through attrition, we'll be going back most likely to that 13 number probably by the end of the year. So we'll see how that plays out. But with that said, I promise to continue to serve this community to the best of our ability. In wrapping up this presentation, I want to reiterate how immensely proud I am of working for this community, and also the quality of work our personnel do on a daily basis to keep Palo Alto safe. The integrity and professionalism which we do so is really extraordinary. Many of our employees commute from other cities closer to their home just so they can serve Palo Alto. It's filled with amazing men and women and individuals who continue to strive to provide the best service possible. And behind every badge is a human just like you. And with that, I will also state that I'll hold my team accountable when necessary. And I want the community to hold us accountable, understanding that as humans, each of us is on a journey, continuing to learn and improve every day. I am not naive to the fact that this department has been subject to some negative news reports that included some serious allegations in the past year. I want to assure you that we take these allegations of misconduct very, very seriously. And as I mentioned earlier, we expect our officers to treat every member of this community as one and with respect. I'm sorry. The allegations. I'm not sure if my slide, I just lost the video, so I apologize for that. I'm not sure if you're still seeing the slide, but I'm hoping you are. With that said, I have faith that our personnel are committed to serving and protecting this community with respect and care. I'm very proud, like I said, of the work we do to keep this city safe. I'm privileged to work alongside each of them every day, and I'm excited to continue our future together as a community and as a department. It really concludes the presentation in this session, this introductory session. As I mentioned before, we have 3 more sessions that are designed for the upcoming weeks. Next week, we'll have one, and they'll continue for the next 3 weeks to talk about the topics I shared earlier. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to be with us today so I could provide some insight to the Palo Alto Police Department. We're always willing and open to suggestions and how we can improve. And so please don't hesitate to reach out. This session is not designed to answer questions or take questions, but we are always willing to receive them. So you see the information on the screen. Don't hesitate to send us questions, comments, concerns, or recommendations, and we'll make sure that we take those under consideration. Again, thank you for your time, and as always, stay safe and be well.